And joining us live from the Kennedy Space Center, Tariq Malik, editor-in-chief of Space.com. Tariq, it has been more than half a century since astronauts set foot on the moon, a huge moment in U.S. history. So can you touch on the significance of doing this all again? And is this still a big space race?
You know, Juliet, I think that is one of the key things that NASA has riding on this mission. Last week, we heard from Jared Isaacman, the NASA administrator, that they have a new and focused sweeping plan, not just to return astronauts to the moon by 2028, but to build a permanent moon base that could be a springboard for going to Mars. Very ambitious, many, many launches, but the hinge of all of them is, can NASA still get astronauts to the moon and back safely? And that's what this mission Artemis II is all about. It's the first crewed launch of this new mega rocket NASA has, the Space Launch System, the first crewed flight of the Orion spacecraft. And it's been more than 3 years since these two vehicles flew an uncrewed test flight with no astronauts aboard. So they've got a lot of new upgrades to test, and hopefully we'll see our first views of the moon since 1972, Apollo 17.
Amazing. Okay, so how is this mission then setting up an even bigger mission to the Mars?
Yeah, NASA is hoping to take a stepping stone approach. And as I mentioned, Jared Isaacman, the NASA chief, basically reorganized that whole plan. NASA had hoped to land astronauts on the moon actually several years ago, and the program has been delayed. So this is really the jumpstart, the kind of kick in the pants NASA is hoping to get all of the missions to come after flowing in regular succession. They need to make sure that the spacecraft is safe to fly, that it can support astronauts for up to a month at a time for these missions that are going to go to the moon. They need to make sure that the heat shield, which is really important, is robust enough to protect these astronauts through the searing heat of reentry 10 days after their mission. And then we need to know what that environment is like. They're going to test space radiation shelters, other types of medical diagnostics, even like the cameras they use, like how to observe the moon, something we haven't done in over 50 years.
So I'm always intrigued by the logistics in the mission itself, the checklist before it even happens. Can you touch on that? What needs to be completed before each milestone of this mission? And at what point do they say, all right, we can't do this. We have to scrap it?
Yeah, you know, the first 48 hours of this mission are extremely key, because that is when the Orion spacecraft is really getting its shakedown to make sure that it's safe to fly astronauts. So in that period, they're going to go into a really high orbit around the Earth, and these astronauts are going to make sure that the kitchen is working, the galley they have, that the environmental systems that, takes care of their temperature, their air, everything that they need to survive is working, that the water systems, they even have a toilet on board, something the Apollo astronauts didn't have, and they want to make sure that that's working too. So, if it passes all of those checks, they'll go to the next stage, which is to hopefully do some rendezvous checks with their upper stage and to make sure that they can dock in the future with a spacecraft that will take them to the moon or to land on the moon. And then after that, NASA hopes to, check all their boxes and say, yes, you are go for the moon. And when they hit that engine to ignite for that translunar injection, that's it. They're on a trip around the moon, and it's going to bring them straight back as well.
Oh, fascinating, exciting. Let's talk about the crew members. What is their daily life like? And honestly, what are they eating? What are they doing? Walk us through that.
Well, we know that the kind of creature comforts when it comes to living in space has come a long way since the Apollo era of the 60s and the 70s. So NASA's had about 25 plus years of experience working with their partners on the International Space Station to refine a lot of the amenities. So like I mentioned, they have a toilet, something that they haven't had before. So that will be a little bit of a comfort that they've tested on the space station. They have a lot of different food items, including, I think, some unique Canadian treats that the Jeremy Hansen, the Canadian astronaut, is taking aboard that they can enjoy on the way. But they have a food warmer. They can have warm food. They can have drinks as well. They will also have to exercise. They're going to test what NASA hopes will be a good exercise system for trips to the moon to make sure they don't lose as much muscle mass, as much bone density as you could on a long duration flight.
Before we go, tell me your excitement level.
I am, I've been waiting for this mission, since NASA first said they were going to go back to the moon back in 2004. And finally, we're going to get a chance to see this actually happen. I was in the audience when Jared Isaacman announced that new ignition plan to try to revitalize this moon program in order to make things achievable in a stepping stone approach. And it's extremely exciting to kind of be at that point to see there. Like you mentioned, 400,000 people are here. The people in my hotel alone are really excited too, and they can't stop talking about it.
Oh, how neat. Oh, we will definitely circle back with you, Tariq. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And we will have special coverage of the Artemis II launch on Wednesday, right here on CBS News 24/7.